Party leaders and candidates are making a last-ditch pitch for votes on the final day of campaigning before Britain's general elections. Our UK correspondent Dan Whitehead joins us on the line to give us the latest on the elections. Good evening, Dan, and thank you so much for joining us. Now, first things first, with only a couple of hours left until the polls open, can you describe for us the mood among the people?
Good evening to you. Well, I think there is certainly an atmosphere among people now that they just want to get out there, they want to vote. There has been talk that this election campaign hasn't been particularly inspiring, boring, some people say. Certainly looking at the polls, all of the leaders have not necessarily directly engaged enough to pull out in the lead. The final sort of poll of polls that have been coming through show the two main parties, the Conservatives and Labour, neck and neck. So no one has really achieved a major success in pulling ahead in this race, which makes, of course, the election that much more exciting. There are big differences compared to the election 5 years ago, and that really is the emergence of some of the smaller parties. The two which are most prominent in that are the SNP, the Scottish National Party. They really have come through and are shining through ever since the Scottish referendum last year. They're expected to do very well. That could really damage Labour, its home turf in Scotland. That's what we're expecting. Also, of course, UKIP, the UK Independence Party, a very small party that 5-10 years ago no one had heard of. Now its leader, Nigel Farage, is known the world over, and its party is purely really based on getting the United Kingdom out of Europe. And those parties have really raised big questions and stirred up big subjects among the UK electorate over things like immigration and the involvement of Europe and just how the UK as a whole is governed. So I think the atmosphere really is people just very keen to get out there and cast their vote.
Now, Dan, possibilities or a chance of a hung parliament. What is the situation there? Because all the leaders have literally come out and said they're not willing to go into a coalition. What is the situation there, and what do you think is going to happen?
Well, this is it, and this is what makes it incredibly difficult to predict. We've heard from Ed Miliband, the Labour leader, that he would not be willing to go into a coalition with the SNP, the Scottish National Party. He hasn't completely ruled out what sort of follows after a coalition if that can't be done, which is a minority government. All of the leaders, as you say, have said, no, we're not looking at deals. We're striving for a majority. I think really that is all they can say if they have any hope in themselves to try and secure that victory. However, behind the scenes, I imagine senior party officials are plotting and planning just who they could do a deal with. The main problem, though, compared to last year, if you look, of course, Britain has had a coalition government over the last 5 years, the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats. Some may say that has worked relatively well for the economy. The problem this time around, if the polls are correct, the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats, for instance, won't have enough seats between them to get to that magic number, 326. That's the number, the minimum number of seats that a party needs to govern. And if that doesn't happen, then what you have to do as a party leader is get more parties involved. And the more parties you have, of course, the less strong a government is, because all of the party leaders want some of their policies in, and it becomes weaker and weaker. If a coalition can't be reached, then, as I say, there could be a minority government. And those are traditionally very weak, and that has spurred the rumour mill, saying that if that happens and a weak government is created or no government can be created at all, then you could be looking at another general election later this year.
Dan, unfortunately, we have run out of time. We have to leave it there for now. And that was our UK correspondent, Dan Whitehead, giving us the latest on the upcoming UK elections.